made to you so special? Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
Okay, guys, Frank Stout, just a guy from Brooklyn. I'm here to give you a unexpected ranking. I did not expect to be doing this ranking, but because of the new, Jennifer Lawrence raunchy teen comedy that just came out, No Hard Feelings, it inspired me to come up with a raunchy teen comedy ranking. Although this isn't really my cup of tea, these movies are really fun. Some of them were really instrumental for me growing up. In order to prepare for this, I rewatched a lot of my favorites, watched a few new ones, and I checked out a few recommendations to round the list out. So like always, I just want to just jump right in. So let's get my two rules out the way so we can get to this list. Rule number one is spoilers. I don't plan on spoiling anything, but I'm going to give you a mild spoiler warning just in case. Rule number two is, as always, this is a favorites list, not a best list. And my honorable mention is a movie called Screwballs. Came out in 1983. This was a first time watch for me. This is basically a Canadian version of Porky's, with over-the-top characters and over-the-top setting. I mean, we're talking like Looney Tunes, Benny Hill type craziness. At TNA High, I shit you not, five buddies seek revenge on a homecoming queen named Purity Bush. They compete to see who will be the first to get her to show her boobs. This movie is like taking place in another reality. The TNA cheerleaders warm up for the big game by doing like sexual exercises on the grass. The one kid who like masturbates a lot, his name is appropriately Jerkovsky. This is easily the most ridiculous on this list. But if you're into that kind of thing, this is gonna really entertain you because it's really that silly. Honorable mention number two is Joysticks. Came out in 1983. When a successful businessman decides to shut down the local video game emporium, a group of gamers decide to save the arcade. This movie banked on the popularity of arcade games at the time. To be honest, I had more fun searching for all my favorites than I did with any of the comedy or raunchiness. You got Pac-Man, Galaga, Centipede, etc. For a low budget movie, I give it credit. It had its own theme song. It had like video game animations throughout the movie to get like segue from scene to scene. It even had one of the more colorful standout villains of this whole list in King Vidiot. Yep, that's his name. Not only was he the big bad of the movie, he had his own gang. They had their own vehicles. He had kind of a punk rocker thing going on with his gang. I enjoyed all of this. This movie is really, really silly, but also really, really fun. Coming in at number 15 is The Big Bet. It came out in 1985. Chris is so obsessed with sex, he fantasizes with sleeping with everyone. When he meets transfer student Kim, he's totally smitten. The high school bully, played by Ron Thomas from The Karate Kid, yeah, that's like the star power of this movie. He challenges him to a bet to sleep with her. When this proves troublesome, Chris seeks help from this older woman neighbor, who he's also trying to sleep with, but time is running out. This movie has tons of sex and nudity. The comedy is more in his fantasies. When you see him literally fantasizing, sleeping with A, B, and C, the first thing, when he gets up out of bed, that's where the comedy is. It's kind of a strange kind of movie. Coming in at number 14 is Private School. Came out in 1983. This was a first time watch for me. This is also a Porky style kind of movie, but it's banking off of Phoebe Cates' fame from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But still, this was a surprise. The tones are all over the place with this movie. You kind of have like one moment it's being like a teen romance, the next moment it's being like slapstick comedy, and then the next moment it's like raunchy and raunchy comedy. Ironically, in this one, Phoebe Cates mostly keeps her clothes on. She does show a little derriere. Unfortunately for everybody else in the movie, all the other girls, I guess they didn't have her agent because they basically take everything off. But the standout for me in this one was Betsy Russell, who plays like Cates's evil classmate who's trying to get her boyfriend kind of character. She definitely had like a strange kind of performance. Why do I say that? Because they were constantly like doing pranks, yanking off her shirt, exposing her to everybody. And instead of getting pissed off, she would just like laugh along with everybody, just totally out of character. It does have a lot of your Porky stuff, sneaking in to see the girls naked. They do have a shower scene. Even stranger, you have a sex scene with Phoebe Cates and Matthew Modine, a very young, slim. I didn't realize he was that tall, Matthew Modine. They go away and they have this big sex scene on the beach. These two had zero chemistry. They look like two seals pressing up against each other on a rock at the beach, kind of twitching. And it was just so bad that it was like, I had to like, oh. Coming in at number 13 is The Girl Next Door. Came out in 2004. Literally a beat for beat ripoff of Risky Business, replacing like porn stars instead of the prostitutes from Risky Business. You got porn stars. So honestly, it's a little bit more updated, a little less racy, a little less sexy. The only real reason to see this movie is Alicia Cuthbert, who most will recognize from the TV show 24. If nudity and sex and stuff like that is not your bag and you just want like good comedy, this is probably one of the more safer choices for you. It has basically one sex scene which is very quick and it pretty much finishes the movie off, pun intended. Coming in at number 12 is Not Another Teen Movie. Came out in 2001. This is basically a parody movie like Airplane, Scary Movie, etc. But this is all about popular teen movies. Its raunchiness is mostly verbal with some like mild nudity, sprinkling some whipped cream and a banana. It's just very strange seeing like Captain America's Chris Evans in this, but there are some really, really memorable scenes.
Why is it every time I tell a guy they can put it wherever they want, they always stick it in my ass?
Oh, damn!
That's just way too much information for me, Catherine.
Way too much information would be telling you that after they're done, I always take a huge dump.
Shit!
On their chest.
Oh, that is whack!
Coming in at number 11 is Zapped. Came out in 1982. This is kind of a mashup of Charles in Charge, Porky's, the horror movie Carrie. So most people will remember, teen heartthrob Scott Baio, whether it be in Happy Days, Joni Loves Chachi, or Charles in Charge, depending on when you grew up. He plays a nerd named Barney who is in a lab accident and gains telekinetic powers. His best friend Peyton, played by Willie Ames, who's his best friend on Charles in Charge, he plays like that devil on Barney's shoulder, telling him to use his powers for profit and occasionally strip women of their clothing. There's lots of boobs, and in Carrie fashion, you have this huge like prom scene at the end where everybody gets theirs, but it's not in the way that you think. Coming in at number 10 is The Newcomer, No Hard Feelings. Came out this year. Big Jennifer Lawrence vehicle. The reason that this ranking came to be. A woman in danger of losing her home is hired by rich parents to date their introverted son. It's a fun movie that, loses a lot of steam in the third act. But you see that J. Law is a natural at this type of comedy. The son, played by Andrew Barth Feldman, played off of J. Law perfectly. They definitely worked really well together. It's pretty weak on any real type of sex, but there is one big, huge nude scene that nobody saw coming. Coming in at number 9 is The Last American Virgin. Came out in 1982. This is actually a remake of an Israeli film called Lemon Popsicle, which I've been dying to see, but it's very difficult to find these kind of import movies. That came out in 1978, which predates Porky's, which is very interesting. So, it made me rethink of Porky's as that kind of granddaddy to all these movies. Not so sure. Both movies, Lemon Popsicle, Last American Virgin, they were both made by Golem and Globus of the Cannon Group. Cannon at that time was making large amounts of like exploitive type of movies. For all the movies that they chugged out, and a lot of them were pretty bad, you always had like your hidden gem somewhere. And this was one of them. Basically, this is about 3 high schoolers who are out to lose their virginity in any way that they possibly can. Pizza Boy Gary, who you might recognize from like Friday the 13th Part 4, he falls for Diane, who you might recognize from Better Off Dead or Amityville Horror Part 2. But Diane ends up getting involved with Rick, who's Gary's best friend. The love triangle between these 3 characters is where this movie excels like no other movie on this list. And where it really excels is Gary's heartbreak. And when I tell you that this boy is just dying inside, you can just see it in his eyes whenever he sees these two together. Most of us in our lifetime have felt that. You're crushing on somebody and they end up liking your friend and not you, and you have to kind of just take it, when you see them together. It's a rough situation. Because it's a remake of an Israeli movie, there are odd things going on in this movie. Like at one point, Diane goes through an abortion because she gets pregnant by Rick. And Gary goes to visit her at the clinic after her surgery is over, and he brings a bag of oranges and a Christmas tree. Coming in at number 8 is Porky's, which came out in 1981. For me, this is the quintessential raunchy teen movie. This came out a few years before I was even of age, really. I did see it back then and remembered it for those kind of big scenes that it was known for. So rewatching it was kind of a big deal at this point because I hadn't seen it in almost 30 years. Once I put it on, all those memories just started coming back. And while rewatching this, it answered some really big questions. Does it hold up today?
Yeah.
Is it really that raunchy?
Yeah.
Does it give you the laughs?
Yeah.
Does it give you those big moments? It really is one of the first ones to do it, so you got to give it that kind of props. And the reason why are all these big scenes. We're talking the famous shower scene with the hole in the wall. We're talking a very young Kim Cattrall howling her orgasms throughout the gymnasium. We're talking about a very important phone call for a Mike Hunt.
I'm looking for a friend of mine. He's supposed to be there.
What's his name?
His name's Michael Hunt.
Is Mike Hunt here?
I don't know who does.
Has anybody seen Mike Hunt?
Practically everybody in town, from what I heard.
But the biggest surprise for me rewatching this was how this movie kind of tackled some big issues. We're talking racism, we're talking anti-Semitism, and the plot is really nothing, to brag about. It's basically, your young guys trying to get laid. They get ripped off at the local strip bar called Porky's, and they want to get revenge. Coming in at number 7 is Risky Business. This came out in 1983. There was absolutely no reason to rewatch this, and I've probably only seen it twice my whole life. I rented it at my local video store, took it home, and I found the experience to be stimulating, to say the least. Most people remember this movie for the big Tom Cruise dance that he does in his living room. I wish I could say that I remember for that, but I don't. My big memories are basically the Tom Cruise scenes with Rebecca De Mornay, these big sex scenes. One specifically he does on a train in a subway. If you live in New York City, you know the subways are absolutely filthy as fuck. And they're also crowded as hell. So something like this just wouldn't be like plausible here. Coming in at number 6 is Road Trip. Came out in 2000. After mistakenly sending his high school sweetheart a sex tape, Josh and some of his friends embark on a road trip from Ithaca to Texas to intercept the package. Some of you may remember Tom Green and his type of comedy. Hopefully that doesn't dissuade you from checking this out. He does kind of narrate the movie, but at the same time he plays a very, very small part. The raunchiness is played more for laughs in this movie. You know, you've got like a scrawny, nerdy kid who has sex with a girl who's like 5 times his size, and a more educational situation going on when the guys have to make a donation at the clinic.
Do those nylons go all the way up, or are they like those thigh-high kind?
I'm going to perform a procedure on you called milking the prostate. It's an anally induced ejaculation. You're going to feel strong pressure on the prostate gland from inside your rectum.
Coming in at number 5 is Superbad. Came out in 2007. This is Judd Apatow's, take on this type of movie. And it's basically about some graduating seniors are on a mission to buy alcohol for a party to impress some girls, hoping to get lucky. This movie's more verbally raunchy, and it's really, really verbally raunchy, with some really memorable scenes. Obviously, you have the McLovin thing going on.
Wait, you changed your name to McLovin? What kind of a stupid name is that, Fogel? What, are you trying to be an Irish R&B singer?
Oh, they let you pick any name you want when you get down there.
And you landed on McLovin.
Yeah, I was between that and Muhammad.
Why the fuck would it be between that or Muhammad? Why don't you just pick a common name like a normal person?
Muhammad is the most commonly used name on earth. Read a fucking book for once.
You got the 2 cops. You got all the stuff that they get into. Really fun stuff for some really, really fun laughs. Coming in at number 4 is Revenge of the Nerds. Came out in 1984. This is one that I grew up watching. It's basically about a bunch of college freshman nerds, and they join a frat in order to battle the jocks frat for power because they're constantly being bullied by them. Other than a middle scene in the movie involving the nerds, installing cameras into the sorority house, and then you've got another situation at a carnival involving some pies and, some misrepresentation. There's not much else to see here as far as raunchiness, but the movie's hella good, man. Coming in at number 3 is American Pie. Came out in 1999. Look, this is a lot of people's number 1. And, obviously, if you were born in that time, that makes sense. Not to mention the fact that American Pie has so many sequels that just keeps doubling down, and they just get funnier and funnier and crazier. This is your common plot. You've got a group of graduating seniors. They pledge to lose their virginity before graduation. It does all the things that these other movies do. They just go about it in a different way. I just found it to be so fun and refreshing. The big scene involving Nadia in the magazines is obviously the one that, everybody remembers.
So, shaved is the expression?
Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit!
And my runner-up at number 2 is Euro Trip. Came out in 2004. When high school graduate Scotty gets dumped by his girlfriend in truly epic fashion. I'm talking, it has its own theme song.
Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday. She tells him she's in church, but she doesn't go. Still she's on her knees, and Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know.
He makes matters worse by telling his extremely hot European pen pal, Mika, that he basically tells her to fuck off, thinking that he's being catfished. So with some help from his friends, they all trek across Europe in order for him to make it to Mika before she leaves so he can profess his love for her and obviously have sex with her. This movie connects to me for so many reasons. Obviously, I've never been to Europe, so that's number one, you know, and you hear so many crazy stories about people who go to Europe and all the crazy stuff that they, you know, encounter. I mean, you've got everything from soccer hooligans.
Hey lads! That wanker's got a frog football shirt on! Let's give this Nancy a fucking good kicking! Come on lads! It's going off!
To Vondersex in Amsterdam. Nude beaches of the really, really wrong sort.
This is the biggest sausage fest on earth.
It's the International House of Sausage.
You gotta cover up! Cover up! Cover up! Cover up! Run!
I could go on and on and on. This movie's fantastic. And my number one raunchy teen comedy of all time is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't remember who took me to the theater to see this movie. All I can tell you is I was pretty young. And then I watched this movie and the entire world changed for me. Basically, this movie kickstarted puberty for me. It has a larger ensemble cast. It's not just 3 or 4 characters. Phoebe Cates and Jennifer Jason Leigh became instant crushes. Lee's big scene at the bleachers, her big sex scene. Wow. And then you got, Phoebe Cates coming out of the swimming pool in this like kind of fantasy scene. I mean, it was something really, really big for me. Obviously, this movie put Sean Penn, on the map and shot him to superstardom. But his character, the surfer character Spicoli, and his big battle with Mr. Han, those are just like some hilarious type of moments. You've got characters like Brad, who thought they were going to have the greatest year because it's his senior year, and instead it just all came crashing down, and it was harsh, it was rough. Then you've got a very, very similar to Last American Virgin. You've got this love triangle with Lee's character with a kid named Rat and another kid named Damone. It even involves, again, abortion. Obviously, could this be an homage, ripoff? I'm going to say homage. You got stuff like educating your best friend with vegetables during lunch at school. It's just so very 80s. In closing, I was really surprised to see a raunchy teen comedy come out this year. I thought they were kind of, I don't want to say dying out, but they definitely have changed with the times. And what that lets me know is I don't think these movies are going anywhere. I think that we're always going to have them, but they're always going to come out and reflect upon the times that we're at. But I like the fact that we're still getting them. I hope that we get more. I hope we get more that take risks. For me, it's about reminiscing about times where you were younger, when you were more innocent, and you discovered stuff like this, and it was something new. So guys, from the BK, from the city that never sleeps,
See my face in
peace.
lights, on my name on marquees found down on Broadway. He Even if it ain't all it seems, I got a pocket full of dreams, baby. I'm from New York, concrete jungle where dreams